we talked about a little bit about the interface. We have a bunch of tools across the top. We have this interface, and the way AutoCAD works is pretty subtle. You have to enter a command, okay, for like the type command, for instance, or the text command. I don't know what actually they call it. Could be the type command, where you can type in words right on the screen, and you can put those words anywhere you want. Okay, so you can click on the big A up in the annotation section of that ribbon, or you can just do T on the keyboard for type and space. I say space meaning enter, because you can use the space bar as the enter key. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm just going to go T space. Well, I think I have to be here. Okay, so T space. There we go. Don't show me that again. We'll explain that later, but that doesn't matter. Okay, and so just a minor thing happens. It prompts you on the screen, but I also want to point your attention to the bottom part of the screen where the command line, because AutoCAD used to be not graphically interfaced, it was all type, right? So if you wanted to draw a line, you'd have to type in the coordinates and everything. So the command line actually prompts you on what to do next. So it says first corner. Well, what does that mean? So it's not exactly all that helpful, but what you do is you specify a rectangle in which the text will go, and then it's not what you think. All it is it just specifies the area, really, and it goes by itself. So you can center it, you can left justify it, right justify it, vertically center it, and stuff like that. So I'll just show you. So I'm going to click somewhere in the screen, kind of doesn't matter. And then I'm going to click again to specify the other side of the rectangle, right, the other corner. So two opposite corners. It could just go any direction you want. You have 4 choices, really. So anyway, click. And then it totally ignores you and does its own thing, right? Although the width of the type in, this is your text entry box, and it's about as wide as the rectangle you click. Okay. So everybody's working like that. I know some of you aren't even in yet, but okay. At this point, we can kind of start typing, but before we type our stuff in, I want to set up a style, a text style. So we don't get to choose, well, actually you do. Up in the ribbon's totally changed right now. And it allows you to change the font, how big it is, and yada, yada. So instead of having to do that every time, we're going to set up our own style of font. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. That stops the command, goes back to nothing, right? To where I have no commands going on right now, right? So commands will stay there until you do something to stop them, like complete them or escape out of them, okay? So the escape keys are usually the easiest way, but a right click also does it. Okay, so instead of typing right away, I'm going to set up the style and then type. So I'm going to type in the word style, S-T-Y-L-E. In fact, if you just do S-T-Y, it'll figure out there's only a few commands that start with that, and then it gives you a list, and then you can just hit enter or space to commit that command to start. So you'll see, I already have 2 because I'm starting with this default template, but we're going to make an ANSI style, okay? And so go ahead and click on annotative, and we're going to click on new on the right. So this is the text style box. We can make all kinds of different styles. Some styles would be good for architectural drawings. Some styles would be good for mechanical drawings or mapping kinds of drawings, or even chemists use AutoCAD to draw molecules designs, which is interesting because of its scaling capability. It's kind of cool that you could draw lots of very, very small things or very, very large things. Anyway, so here it is, and we're going to choose well, I didn't click new. Click new, and we're going to name it. and we're going to name it ANSI, A-N-S-I. Anybody know what ANSI stands for? Have you heard that before? It's a standard organization, right? So the American National Standards Institute, I think it's in Greeley, Colorado. That's where they hold, well, they used to, but they just redefined what the inch was based off of a wavelength of some element. Anyway, that's the stuff they do, right? They standardize measurement, like length and time even. So, and they've just redefined it not too long ago. So the inch is now based off the metric system instead of the other way around. And the metric system was redefined to be more, what was it? I should show you a video. I should put that on Canvas. It's really interesting. So I digress a little bit. So we're going to name it ANSI, and so I'm going to name this ANSI too. So it adds that to it. And then, so in this ANSI one, we're going to change the font to Gdt Font. You've probably never heard of that font, but it's a drafting font. And the reason it's a drafting font is because it stands for geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. So it's all uppercase, just like what we learned last time is all the lettering and annotation in a drawing is uppercase. All the lowercase letters are symbols. So if you start typing and it's all symbols, that's because you're in lowercase in this font. So GDT, there's a couple GDTs, but we're going to do the .shx, which is an AutoCAD compiled font. Not that you care, but we'll pick that GDT.shx. And, well, there's other things you can do, but the only thing you really need to make sure is that annotative is turned on. And we'll explain what annotative is in detail throughout the semester, really, because it's a concept that it's very convenient. So, all right. Now you might be curious why we're not setting a size, paper text height, but that should be 0, so you can change it in the document. If you change it from anything but 0 here, it forces all the text to be that size. Okay, and so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a good style. We're good. So I'm going to set that to the current style. Maybe now I can delete that. Yep, take that one out. Okay, so now I have this ANSI font, or text style, as it's called, and it's annotative, and it's the current font style. And I'll close it. Okay, before I type, I'm going to do one more thing. I want to set the default text size. Okay, like if you had like an essay to do in English class or something, they might ask you to type all your documents in 12-point font or something like that, right? The points are actually 70/2 of an inch. So that's just a unit of measurement. Okay. Well, in AutoCAD we use regular measurements, so I'm just going to we're using inches. This is the default in AutoCAD is inches. Although AutoCAD also has a metric default, but that's not the document we're using. So I'm going to type in the word text size, just one word, T-E-X-T-S-I-Z-E. Okay, and the default size here, it probably says 0.2. I think that's AutoCAD's default. Well, down here at the command line, right, it'll say enter new value, and then it'll put in brackets the default. So anytime you see those brackets, that's if you just hit enter, it'll do that. Okay, and that's important too because that does it for a lot of things. So anyway, so if you type in text size and enter, what does it say?
New value.
0.2, right? 2/10. 2/10 of an inch is, well, how big is that? I think you know what 2/10 of an inch is, a little less than a 1/4 inch, right? Okay. Well, we're going to go 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to type in 0.125 for the text size. And that is a standard, it's standard size for most of the text. Not all the text, but most of it is 1/8 of an inch. So if we put that as the default, we'll have to change it less. So I'm going to do. So I hit spacebar or enter, and it commits it, goes away, doesn't really tell you anything, but it did it. So 1/8 of an inch. What's 1/8 in decimal form? Although, well, what is it? Anybody know? That's a 1/4 inch. Oops. What was that? Close. Right? 0.125. Yeah. Now we're used to saying 0 point, and that helps, right, when you see it. But AutoCAD doesn't care if you put that 0 in there. So, you know, to save keystrokes, don't bother with the 0 in front of the decimal. You don't have to use it. The other thing I was going to say is you could also just type in 1/8, and it'll do it for you. You actually don't have to know the fractions, but I'm still going to ask you. All right. Yeah.
I'm not where you guys are at, but I'm lost. I need to get there.
Oh, okay. So the only thing you probably missed was the text size command. So just type in TEXTSIZE and enter or space. Yeah, and then
Enter.
yeah, and then it should say down here, enter new default value or whatever, and then you're going to type in your 1/8, either in decimal form or in fractional form.
Spacebar, you said?
Or enter. Yeah, the spacebar acts as the enter key unless you're typing. Unless you're actually typing in the text box, and then a space is the space. Otherwise. Okay, now that we've set up the style and the text size, the default text size, we can type some stuff. So now, does anybody remember how we start typing? Yeah. You could use what I call the chump buttons up here, because really T space gives your left hand something to do if you're right-handed, right? Otherwise, your right hand's doing all the work, and that's not fair. Anyway, if you go up here to the chump button, you can pull this down. There's actually 2 kinds of texts. Even if you wanted to draw a single line, don't, right? Just use multi-line text or T space, okay? So I'm not going to use either of those. I'm just going to go T space. And now we're back to first corner, last corner thing, right? Where we specify the box in which we're going to type our text. So clickety, click on one, click on the other, and then we can start typing. And the default style is that ANSI font. So if you start typing in lower, let me zoom in. Remember panning and zooming? Did we talk about that? That's the word lower case. See, that's all lowercase, right? And those are all symbols. If I put my cap locks on, lowercase, then I get capital letters. So far, so good? All right, good. So the next step is, like, how do you get out of this, right? If you hit escape, it'll ask you, well, do you want to save what you've done or whatever? But the easiest thing to do, really, I think, is there's 3 ways to get out of this and actually keep it. Well, 4, really. You can just click outside of it. See, I have my cursor over here. I can just click, and it puts it down where it is, right? You can also close the text editor, and it might ask you to save or not save. You can hit escape, but I wouldn't do that because, well, because it'll ask you to save too, probably. And then the last way, which is my favorite, but probably nobody else's, is you can hold the control key and then the enter. It's kind of like a secret. Maybe that's why I like it. Anyway, so clicking is likely the easiest way to do it. So I just click, and there it goes, right? The text box goes away, and the text stays. Yes?
My letterings look nice.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So that's okay. Because so is mine, right? Right. It only matters because of how you zoom. So how do you zoom? That was zooming, right? How do you zoom again? So anybody remember? You just roll your mouse wheel. It's the scroll wheel, right? Isn't that yeah? And so you just roll it, and it comes back. But one of the problems is it'll zoom in and out of where your cursor is. So if my cursor's over there, kind of away from the text, then if I zoom in, then I lose it, right? Oh no, it went off the screen. What do I do? So there's a couple things you can do. Zoom back out, right? So I center my cursor, kind of get filled. There it is again, and then I put my cursor over it, and then I do that. That was kind of hard, right? So another thing is if I kind of zoom out, oh, I know it's over here. I just saw it go over here, right? So you can use your scroll wheel as a middle mouse button by pressing it and dragging it, right? So if you press it, it turns into this little pan hand. See the little hand? And then that grabs it and grabs it. There it is. See? So I can pan by clicking and dragging the middle mouse wheel as a button. So that's important to get kind of comfortable with zooming and panning. That takes care of like 90% of your navigation inside the screen. Is that right? We get sort of comfortable with that. All right. Okay. Oh, yeah. So I'm glad that happened. Because see it like that? Yeah. Okay. So another way to do that, if you don't know where it is, you start panning all around, it's still not coming up, maybe, right? That can happen easily, is double click your mouse wheel, right? And that's the same thing as zooming extents. There's different kinds of zooms that you can do. Or you can type in Z and then enter that, and then E for extents, and then enter that. But a double click on your mouse wheel will do the same thing. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to double click my mouse wheel, and you see it animates it coming up, and it zooms to the extent of what you have drawn in your screen. Now that's not always a good thing because I'm going to zoom out, I'm going to pan over here, and then I'm going to draw a little circle, a little bitty circle right over here. Okay, and then I go zoom extents, right? Z space, E space. And then there's my circle way over there, and then there's that. So if I had two little things and they're really far apart, I might only see one little pixel, like your screen lost a pixel or something, and then they'd be so far apart that you wouldn't notice or something. So it's important to realize what's going on. So let me delete that. Then double click my mouse wheel, and there it is. Okay. So you can zoom and pan all day long, but the actual size of your text is still 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we're ready to print. I think we've typed everything we want out, and it looks okay, I guess. Maybe you realize you misspelled a word, or maybe you realize that you just typed in one line and it went on for a long time, and you need it in several lines because it's going to be too long for your paper or something. Okay, so we can edit the text still, right? So I can click on it, and you see those arrows? So I can still, that was your text box, so I can click on that, and I can resize it. Oh, I resized it too much, and so it flowed into another column. I didn't really want to do that. So let me, maybe I can make that longer. Pan, I can pan while I'm doing it, see? So pan and zoom, and make it longer. And then it fits in the box again, right? I don't want to make it that long. I want to make it there, maybe a little longer that way. Okay. So now I've adjusted it to where it kind of fits. Now, how do you deselect something? Well, of course, there's more than one way, but the easiest way is just hit escape on the keyboard. It just deselects. What about editing the text? Like if I found that I misspelled a word or something in there. I rarely do that, but I'm just kidding. Right, you can double click the text. Now keep in mind, if I double click right there, it's not going to do it, right? But if I double click see how it highlights a little bit? It gets a little thicker, like bold. Then double click. So it's a little, and then double clicking gets you back into editing the text. Now, if you're not comfortable double clicking, you can always click on it and then right click and pull up the text editor that way. But double clicking is definitely more convenient. So far, so good. Question? I saw Brittany shaking her head. You all right? Yeah. Okay, I saw you. All right, good. Very good. Okay, so now I'm right. I want to print, right? Since we're doing online, and I'm going to show you two methods of, well, they're really the same method, but just two outputs. So there's a chuck button up here with the printer on it, right? You can do that. AutoCAD calls it plotting sometimes. It calls it printing other times. And also the big application menu, the big A menu up there. And then you can go to plot here, or is it print? Export, print. Yeah, they say print here. They say plot here. It's the same thing. Anyway, I go to print. Oh, and then escape. Control P does the same thing. So there's three ways you can get to this box, which is your print dialog. All right. All right, so this is a fairly large, oh, and maybe your print box looks like this. So if you click on that little right arrow, we're gonna actually need that. So I expanded out to all the options. Ready? Okay, the first thing we wanna do, basically I'm gonna go in left, just like you read, right? So I'm gonna start in the upper left and go down and then go to the second, well, that's about a third, I guess. Then the second part on the right, and go to the top and go down. There's not a lot to do in there, but anyway, first thing, I don't want to, okay, well, let's just go over the first thing, the name. The page setup, I can save it, right? So, and then, so I can go back and I can pull up all these settings, because there's a fair amount of them, and we don't want to spend a lot of time changing settings all the time. So we can save those settings if we want, and that's last, really. So anyway, we're gonna set the printer. In the lab, the two printers, there are two printers. There's a laser printer over here, and there's a laser printer over there. Okay, so there's two to choose from, and they're called pod printers. And you may only see one in your list because this half of the room is all mapped to the pod 3 printer, and that is the pod 1 printer or something. So anyway, I'll pick the pod 3. Also, do you all see the 1413D LJC printer? That's actually a color printer that prints bigger pieces of paper, which may be useful, and it's in the other lab. So we've mapped to that one too. So anyway, you could print, if you knew where, you could print any printer on campus. But anyway, we're going to pick the pod 3 because it's closest. And then the default paper size is letter, which is fine. What to plot? This is where it gets a little bit about scale, and we'll talk about that a lot. Well, a bit, anyway. What do we want to plot? The display? Well, my text is in the display, so that's good. But most likely, extents is the best way to start, right? So that automatically reads what's on your screen and tries to fit it automatically. Okay, so I pick extents. I do want to center it on my paper so it'll fit in. Okay, and then I'm going to go over here to the right, and it says plot scale. Well, by default, it says print fit to paper. That means it's going to scale it down or scale it up to fit inside the paper. That's rarely what you want to do. But it does give you an idea of how big your drawing is, or in this case, our text. And so in my case, I look at this number, and because that's checked, it's doing it for you, so you can't type it in. If I uncheck it, I can type it in. But I want to look at that number before I change it. And if that number is less than 1, that means my text will fit on the paper. Okay. If it's greater than 1, then the fit to paper had to scale it down to fit it. Oh, so I know by looking at that 0.6028, in my case, everybody's will be different, hopefully. I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm just going to go 1 to 1. So what that does is it's going to set up my print to go full scale. That means my text will actually come out 1/8 of an inch, which is good. Unless you don't want your text to come out that way. But anyway, that's basically how AutoCAD handles scaling, right? Up at the top right, it has a plot style table pen assignments. That's kind of a holdover from a legacy way back when in CAD drawings and stuff, when they went to print them, they were actually called plotters, and it was a carriage of pens, felt tip pens, that they picked up, and they had a carousel of different colors, and they would pick it up and it would draw with the pens. Okay, well now we have, you know, laser and inkjet and things like that. Anyway, it still stands that your different layer colors. See, I have blue for my layer color or whatever. We'll talk about layers and stuff later too, but my text is blue. But these printers are only black and white. So if I do, well, most of the time we're going to do monochrome. Not always, but monochrome is, yes, will print whatever color it is, it'll print it black on a white piece of paper. So that's usually what we want to choose. If you pick none, it might come out gray because the printer just says, oh, well, I don't have that color, so I'll just print, you know, if it's light, it'll print it gray. If it's not, whatever. Okay, and we can mainly, this is all 3D kind of stuff or whatever, the rest, that other part of it. And then the paper orientation, right? Most of the time, it's landscape, right? It's landscape is the 11 inches of your letter size piece of paper, your 8.5 by 11, is laying down, and the height of it is 8.5. So it's 11 wide, 8.5 tall. That's landscape. Portrait is standing up like an essay, like a written document, which 11 is tall and 8.5 is wide. So that's portrait. Landscape is mostly what we do, but not always. Okay, if you click OK, it's going to print to that printer, but I want to preview it first to see if these settings, if I don't have something weird going on. So I click preview, and it looks like it's going to happen. See how dark that is? That's because my layer settings are weird. So anyway, yours probably isn't that dark, so that's okay. All right, any questions up to there?
What properties of the
Oh, yeah, I can show you. So I'm going to go out of this, but all that was a lot of work. It was a lot of talking. So I'm going to click add up here at the name. So plot and setup 1, that's fine. Now I can hit escape or cancel. And then I can talk about, I don't want it that thick, right? It doesn't look that thick here, but if I turn on the line weight here, it's actually kind of thick. And that's because in my layers, I have some layers set up, and this is the layer that I have, this object layer. It's 0.53 millimeters, and so that's kind of thick. So I'm going to select my text. See, it's on the OBJ layer. That's that thick layer. What if I put it on my text notes layer? It makes it red. Now, you guys don't have that, but we're going to set up our layers pretty soon. So I'm just kind of showing that. I already have them there, so that's okay. So now, if I go back to the Control P and then choose my setup 1, all those things, and then preview it, then it's going to come out. I picked the wrong setup. Anyway, there it is. It's all centered nicely, I guess, and it's pretty. Again, you can roll your mouse wheel in and out here where you can zoom in and out of the paper if you need to. But anyway, escape. So those of you at home or whatever that need to submit this assignment via Canvas or something, we can just change the printer to, scroll down here, see where it says DWG to PDF. DWG is the file type that's native to AutoCAD. So it's a drawing, short for drawing file. And PDF is a portable document file, which is an Adobe format, right? Adobe PDF files. Have you ever seen those? Heard of those? Maybe? Okay. So I can do that. And everything else being the same, let's take a look at the preview here. Nothing much has changed. So I'm going to go ahead and print. I think we're ready, right? So different printer. And once I click OK, it actually asks for where to put the file, right? It's going to build a file rather than print to a printer, right? It prints to a PDF, if you will. So I'm just going to go to my documents, or my H drive is usually where I put stuff, right? So if you're on campus here, you can go to your H drive. Don't go to my documents because that'll stay on the computer and it won't, like if you sit at a different computer or something, or you go home, you won't have access to the file. If you put it on the H drive, you can access your H drive through the San Juan College portal. Did you know that? Okay, so your files can be accessed at home. So that's useful. Or you could use a jump drive and just have it.
How did you get there? The browser thought.
So yeah, the reason that popped up is because I changed the printer to DWG to PDF. And once I click OK, then it wants to know what the file name is. See, it's already a PDF file. So I changed the name of the file to my text. Oh yeah, it's still in caps. How about my text example? DWG, which is short for drawing, and to PDF. Do you see that? It's in the list. Okay. That's how you create PDF files out of your AutoCAD drawings. So I have a DRFT, I have a drafting folder, and I have a DRFT 111 folder, and there I go. I'm going to save it. And I think by default it pulls up Adobe Reader if you have it on your computer, and there it is. There's my Adobe file. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to start a tour or anything. But there you go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. At this point, you could go to Canvas. Let's get Canvas over here. And assignments. Here's the lettering assignment. I think I have to do something here. Yeah, it's already online and everything, so I think we're good.
After OK, if I go to Adobe?
Yeah, you named it and put it somewhere?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, so once you click OK, it'll come up with the Browse dialog box where you can type in the name of the file and where it's going, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you know where it's being saved. Usually the H drive, or the one with your name on it, the big old long one with your name on it. Save it there, probably. No, okay. Yeah. Okay. See the little arrow to the right of that one? Yep. And then a little down triangle. Okay, we're just going to do that. It doesn't look like it's making it happen, right? I don't see the text. It's faster the second time, right? And just realize that, you know, when you're drawing and stuff and something happens, you mess up, a lot of times you have to redo it. So especially if the computer crashes or something. So save often. Let's do, yeah, yeah. Okay. That's, every student has 100 megabytes of storage space on their server. The H drive is that space. Do you see it?
No.
Oh, all right.
Right. Even though I got that file saved, if I want to rename it, would I be able to rename it?
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Oh, okay. Click on that. Yeah. So that's going to go right to the H drive. It goes. It up.
Can you say go to Canvas?
Yeah. I can't really. Oh, yeah. I think I have a student view thing to do, I guess. Let me see. Yeah. Anyway, I think. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, student view. Let's see. I go to assignments. Here's the only assignment you should see. And then see the big blue button up at the right? You can click on Submit Assignment. This allows you to choose a file, and that'll browse for the file. And then you submit assignment after you've chosen the file, and that should do it. That's how you